Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking a look at a really fascinating source he shared, Thomas Stanley's Millionaire Mind.
Yeah, it's the follow-up to his big bestseller, The Millionaire Next Door.
Exactly. And this one, it really digs into the psychology, right?
Hmm.
The thinking,
Yeah.
the values behind people who actually build, lasting wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today is basically to pull out the key insights, the nuggets from Stanley's research. We're focusing less on just making money and more on the mindset, the habits, the attitudes that lead to long-term financial independence.
And what's so great about Stanley's work, especially for this kind of deep dive, is the data behind it. He didn't just guess.
Right.
He surveyed and interviewed over 1,000 millionaires. So we get this incredibly detailed picture, their background, work ethic choices, their whole philosophy on money, school, marriage, success. It's all based on real lives.
Real experiences, not just theory. That's
Yeah.
key. And I think you'll find, as we go through this, it seriously challenges some common ideas. The millionaires he studied, often not who you'd picture. Get ready for some maybe surprising insights.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's unpack this first big idea, because it really underpins everything else, doesn't it? Stanley found that millionaires aren't just focused on, getting rich quick. Their main goal, their driving force, is financial independence and security.
Right.
That sounds subtle, maybe, but why is that shift in focus so important compared to just chasing the next big paycheck?
Well, it's a totally different way of operating, isn't it? Someone just trying to make money might take huge risks, chase fads, maybe even cut corners for a quick win.
Yeah, looking for that lottery ticket almost.
Exactly. But what Stanley saw was this relentless focus on building something solid, something lasting. Every decision they make seems to be viewed through this long-term lens.
So not about short-term thrills.
No, it's like, are they building a fortress that will stand the test of time? Or just trying to win one flashy battle? That impacts everything, what car they buy, how they invest, the risks they do take. It's all about long-term security.
That's really powerful. It makes you think, doesn't it? For you listening, how might looking through that long-term lens change your daily choices? Not just money, but career, spending, even learning. It's a whole mindset shift.
It really is.
Okay, now here's a part that I found really interesting and honestly maybe a bit relieving for some of us. The education piece. Stanley found that actually a lot of the millionaires he studied were, well, average students. B's, C's sometimes, not necessarily the valedictorians or the academic stars.
Right. And that flies in the face of the idea that you need some genius-level IQ to build wealth, doesn't it?
Totally. So what was it then, if not amazing grades?
Well, what Stanley identified was less about raw intelligence and more about things like discipline, persistence, huge factors, and social intelligence, knowing how to work with people.
Grit, basically. Sticking with things.
Exactly. Plus, they valued practical education. They often went into fields like, finance, accounting, sales, law, engineering, things with direct application. Not always the most prestigious sounding degrees, maybe, but ones they could use to build something tangible.
So it wasn't about the fancy diploma itself, but the useful skills.
Precisely. Utility over prestige, you could say. Unless that prestigious degree led to a very practical application, of course.
That's actually really encouraging. If you felt maybe your school record wasn't stellar, this research suggests focusing on practical skills, building discipline, honing your people skills.
Yeah.
That could be way more important for financial success.
Absolutely. It's about what you do with what you know and your drive.
Okay, so with that practical mindset, it kind of makes sense what he found about their careers, too. They often chose fields that, well, some might call them boring.
Yes. Boring but profitable is a good way to put it.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Things like manufacturing, wholesale distribution, running service businesses, real estate, owning small companies. Not the high glamour tech startups or Wall Street jobs you see in movies all the time.
Right, so what's the thinking there?
Well, it connects back to that long-term security focus, doesn't it? They're good at spotting unmet needs, finding a niche, and just consistently delivering value, often in areas others overlook.
Like the example Stanley gave. Pest control, right, or commercial laundry.
Exactly. Things that aren't sexy, but they solve a real ongoing problem for people or businesses. They build wealth steadily through consistent profits, not necessarily through explosive, headline-grabbing growth.
So the takeaway for you listening might be, look for opportunities where others aren't. Don't just chase the glamour. Sometimes the best path, financially speaking, is the less obvious one, the one that just quietly serves a need really well.
That seems to be a common thread.
Okay, let's tackle another big stereotype, the image of the flashy millionaire. Because Stanley's work paints a very different picture, doesn't it?
Oh, completely different. The vast majority live well below their means.
Meaning what, specifically?
Modest homes, often in neighborhoods you wouldn't expect. Driving average cars, sometimes 10, 15 years old. Careful spending habits. They're not the ones dripping in luxury brands or constantly upgrading everything.
Stanley mentioned finding millionaires who still wore, like, a basic Timex watch, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this isn't because they're misers. It ties back again to that core value, financial independence. They consciously distinguish between needs and wants.
And they fight lifestyle inflation.
Massively. That's the trap, isn't it? Income goes up, spending goes up even faster. They actively resist that. Living below their means frees up money to invest, grow their business, secure their future. Frugality is a strategy for them, not a sacrifice.
That is such a critical point. It really makes you pause and think about your own spending and that pressure, sometimes subtle, sometimes not, to keep up appearances. True wealth, according to this, seems much quieter.
Much quieter, much more deliberate.
Okay, switching gears a bit, but still related. Relationships. Stanley found something really interesting here, too. A powerful predictor of wealth was a supportive spouse.
Yes, fundamental. Not just a nice bonus, but a core element.
How does that work? Why is it so important?
Well, think about it. Millionaires often marry people who share their core values, frugality, discipline, that long-term view. If one partner is saving and building, and the other is spending freely or taking on debt, it just doesn't work. It causes friction, drains resources.
It's constant conflict, I imagine.
For sure.
Yeah.
And beyond just agreement, these couples are often very intentional about passing those values, hard work, responsibility, saving down to their kids, teaching them about money management early on.
So it becomes a family culture.
Exactly.
Mm.
It raises a big question for all of us, really. How aligned are you and your partner on financial values? Because it has a huge impact on your journey together. It's a true partnership.
Absolutely. Shared values, especially around money, seem crucial for building that unified front needed for long-term goals. That's a powerful example, too. Now, let's talk work habits. Stanley confirms, yeah, these folks are hardworking, persistent, focused. No real surprise there, right?
No, you don't accidentally become a millionaire usually. The work ethic is definitely there.
But what about risk? Are they big gamblers? Just throwing money around?
No, not at all. That's another misconception. They're calculated risk takers.
What does that mean, calculated?
It means they do their homework. They research thoroughly. They understand the potential downsides. They weigh the odds before making a big move. They're not just speculating wildly.
And many are entrepreneurs, right? Self-employed.
A large percentage, yes. They value autonomy, control. So they're often taking business risks, starting a company, buying equipment, hiring people. But these are risks within an area they understand, risks they can influence directly through their own effort and decisions.
Ah, so it's informed risk, not blind betting.
Exactly. It's about making smart bets based on knowledge and taking ownership of the outcome, rather than just hoping for the best in the stock market casino, so to speak. They mitigate risk through control and understanding.
That's a really useful distinction for you listening. Calculated risk based on knowledge versus just pure speculation. Very different things.
Very different.
Okay, beyond the actions, what about their mindset, their psychological makeup? Stanley found some common traits there too, right?
Yeah, definitely. Things like optimism, a belief they can succeed, incredible discipline, as we've mentioned, and being very goal-oriented. They know where they're heading.
And how do those inner traits affect their financial actions?
Well, confidence is huge. Confidence in their own decisions. After they do the research, they act. They aren't easily swayed by panic or hype.
They trust their own judgment.
Right. And they actively avoid things like consumer debt. They steer clear of pure speculation. They sidestep financial risks they see as unnecessary. These aren't just habits. They seem like core parts of their psychology. Optimism helps them bounce back from setbacks. Discipline keeps them saving and investing. Confidence lets them make independent, sometimes contrarian choices.
That makes total sense. Those traits, optimism, discipline, confidence, they build resilience, don't they? Which you absolutely need for sustained success, financial or otherwise.
Couldn't agree more. It's a powerful internal foundation.
So we've talked a lot about building wealth, but Stanley also emphasized something else that's maybe less exciting, but just as vital, preserving it.
Oh yeah, absolutely critical. Getting there is one thing. Staying there is another challenge entirely.
So what are their strategies for preservation? How do they protect what they've built?
It's a whole strategy. They tend to invest in stable, long-term assets. Things like income-producing real estate, businesses they know well, conservative stock holdings.
So not chasing risky, high-flying stocks necessarily.
Generally not for the bulk of their wealth. Think more blue-chip companies, dividend stocks, index funds, stability and steady growth. They're also really careful about minimizing taxes legally, of course, using retirement accounts, understanding deductions. Estate planning is usually a priority, too.
And they avoid that keeping up with the Joneses trap we talked about.
Absolutely. Because that conspicuous consumption is expensive. It drains wealth. They see it as a liability, not something to aspire to. Preservation is about smart management, tax efficiency, and resisting social pressure to spend.
Okay, so the message for your long-term planning is it's not over once you hit a certain number. Wealth management is an ongoing process. Protection, smart strategy. It's the marathon, right? Both building it and keeping it.
Exactly. Accumulation and preservation, two sides of the same coin.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Millionaire Mind, I think the big takeaway from Stanley's research is pretty clear, isn't it? Building wealth, real wealth, it's rarely about just luck or some incredible inherited talent or being famous.
Absolutely not. His whole point really is that it stems from a specific mindset, one built around discipline, being frugal, taking calculated risks, and always, always having that long-term vision.
The secret isn't chasing the money itself.
No, it's about building a life structured around financial independence, taking personal responsibility, and having strong, supportive relationships. The millionaires he studied often lead quite deliberate, sometimes surprisingly quiet lives.
It really reinforces that different image, doesn't it? Often humble, under the radar. There's people who think differently about money and success and consistently act on those beliefs.
Which leads to maybe a final thought for you to consider after this deep dive.
Okay.
If these are the core traits and behaviors, discipline, frugality, long-term focus, calculated risk, what's maybe one single thing in your own mindset or maybe a daily habit that you could start to adjust today, just a small shift to align a bit more with that long-term vision. Doesn't matter where you're starting from.
That's a great question to ponder. Those small, consistent shifts, they add up over time, don't they?
They really do.
Well, hopefully these insights from the Millionaire Mind give you some practical ideas for your own journey. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
We'll catch you next time.